Thank you, Mr. Paul. It's a pleasure to be with you.
I wanted to have you on because I know you've been following some of the budgetary problems that we've been facing here in Arkansas, and I wanted to get your take on it. You being a Hillsdale College graduate and one of the most conservative people that I know, what you heard, let's say on a Friday, Governor had to cut $70 million from our current budget that ends in a month or so, and then he had to cut another $43 million from the new one that we start in a couple of months. What were your thoughts when you heard that?
You know, as a conservative, we're always happy to see them cutting the size and scope of government. It's a wonderful thing. So, yeah, I think it was the first few good words, we've heard from the governor's mouth this year. But their reasoning behind it, or their excuses behind it, is what's troublesome for us. They're saying, well, we're having to do this because we couldn't raise taxes enough. But how they say that is that revenue was down, or that we're not generating enough income to the state. Well, you can very quickly learn how the state collects revenue by studying our Constitution and our state Constitution, in that the government can only make money three ways. It can borrow it, it can print it, or it can tax it and collect it from its citizens. Well, the state can't print its own money, and it can't borrow that much money unless through certain areas for highways and stuff like that. So what they're telling you is, well, we left too much money in the hands of the average Arkansan, and we can't fund all the projects we want to fund. So we're going to have to slash this money, and this is actually a sad thing for Arkansas. It's a very good thing for Arkansas. If you go to Conduit for Action, the website, that's where I get all my news for the state of Arkansas. I'm going to give it a little plug. The governor says that there's nothing really to worry about because the items that we're not going to fund are the low priority spending categories. Why are we funding those at all? If they're low priority, if they don't even matter, if we're just going to cut these things, we should have cut those a long time ago. A true conservative would look at a budget and would say, all right, where can we cut the fat? How much can we trim? That's not what this session in our state House and state Senate has been about. It's been about raising taxes.
Yeah.
And you have people like Charlie Collins. Can we talk about him?
Oh, absolutely.
This is a guy who he went and did the Tea Party circuit back in the day when he was wanting to run for office. And I'm ashamed to say he spoke at my Tea Party here in Mountain Home. And I thought he was a knowledgeable guy. He comes across as a knowledgeable guy. But the way he talks about this, he sent a tweet out. He says, sales diverting the internet sales tax and avoiding the use tax is a major portion of why we're having this budget shortfall.
Yeah.
So he's saying, oh, no, it's not that we budgeted crazy and passed the governor's budget without tweaking it. It's that we didn't pass enough new taxes. And I sent out a tweet, trying to act like Donald Trump. And I said it's sad that people like Representative Collins are
maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program,
All right.
brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
All right, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for being with us. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality, where we are building a liberty machine. We're really glad that you're with us. If you want to be a part of it, contribute to building the liberty machine, one of the ways you can do that is to give us a phone call or a text message. That number, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. I tweeted this, and you can follow me on Twitter at Paul Harrell 1776. Kind of in response, I was watching the news of the day, for sure. But I got this response, or this, I guess, a poke, or somebody mentioned me, or whatever they call it. I don't know. Senator Jake Files will not run for re-election. Good news for Matt Pitch, who's vying for his seat and thought he was still running. So Matt Pitch is a Republican majority leader in the House of Representatives down at the Marble Palace. And Representative Matt Pitch, coincidentally, we were talking about him yesterday on the program before this news of his announcement. Matt Pitch will seek Senator Jake Files' seat in District 8 in the Fort Smith area. We were talking about Matt Pitch because he recently, in the paper, was quoted, gave a speech, I think, to a Springdale group, where he was quoted as, talking about how we've got to end the exemptions. You remember yesterday's program, and we basically pointed out the hypocritical nature of being against exemptions in the tax code when you just voted for an exemption for military veterans, military retirees, and in that very bill created even more exemptions, carve-outs for the soda industry, the syrup industry, and then creating new taxes for the digital downloads and things like that. So we were talking about Matt Pitch yesterday, and now here he is in the news. He's now going to be, according to Jake Files, moving up the political ladder. That's what Jake Files said in the Talk Business article detailing all of this. A couple of things here. Number one, I tweeted this at the Arkansas Democratic Party. I still don't think the Arkansas Democratic Party is alive and well, but we do have a heartbeat, and that's because over on Facebook, they wrote this. Joe, go ahead and find this graphic if you can and throw it up there for our listeners, our viewers. We're looking for the Democrat Party of Arkansas. They have finally at least shown that there's someone alive. That, on their Facebook page, they can do more than just parrot the anti-Trump media, talking points out there. By the way, I'll say this: we may be witnessing the end of the mainstream media as we know it. And I know it looks bad, but I'm just telling you, their point of view is so biased, and it's very simple. It's very simple for those of you out there who don't want to know, who don't want to admit that the media is ridiculously biased against Trump and that it's getting to a point where it's just flatly ridiculous. It's really just human nature. Donald Trump ran against the media in this last election. He's called them out every step of the way. And what do you do? What is your human instinct when somebody comes at you? You come back at them just as hard. At the most basic level, that's what's going on here with the press and Donald Trump. They're running stories based on sources that they would have never run when Barack Obama or even George W. Bush was in the White House. It's all because, for some reason, Donald Trump, it is apparent to me, represents a shift, whether good or bad, but a massive seismic shift in the status quo power structure, not just in Washington, D.C., the entire country, if not globally. And anybody who's going to lose power is coming after him. And he has, I think it's fair to say now, I think we can say this, Donald Trump has people around him who are leaking things for some other purpose besides governing the way the American people elected you to govern. That's all I got to say. Throw this up here, Joe. We're looking for the Facebook post, Democrat Party of Arkansas Facebook post. That right there. They finally woke up. There's at least a heartbeat at the Democratic Party of Arkansas. They write this: Republican State Senator Jake Files of Fort Smith will not seek re-election after latest allegations of malfeasance and misuse of taxpayer funds. Today, it was revealed that a $1.8 million foreclosure lawsuit has been sought against him. And then they link to, then they put a quote. You see the quote there. That's from Talk Business. And then they, let's see here. Then they link to the Talk Business article by Eric Mitchell. Senator Files to not seek re-election. Representative Matt Pitch to run for the Senate seat. Now, a couple of things here. Specifically, what foreclosure are we talking about here? Okay. Down here under the headline, subheadline, Files legal issues. Files has faced legal challenges since winning election in 2012. These have included a pending dispute with the city of Fort Smith over the unfinished River Valley Sports Complex, as well as a formal criminal complaint filed by Fort Smith City Director Keith Lau over allegations Files mishandled funds. Files has denied the allegations. Files and his former business partners also face, here it is, a $1.8 million foreclosure lawsuit brought by Fannie Mae, the government enterprise that provides financing for low to moderate income housing. In a previous interview with Talk Business and Politics, he was asked if he intended to step down over the pending issues, to which he responded, quote, I have not done anything to necessitate me needing to resign my position. Matt Pitch, told Talk Business and Politics, when he spoke to Files about his intent to run for the Senate seat, Files thanked me for the phone call. I don't know if he is or isn't running. That's really on him. We thought about this for my decision, and we went from there. Okay. So, yeah, well, that's a quote. That's a quote from previous. Obviously, if you take this story this week and you compare it to the story from last week when Jonathan Dismang, the president of the Senate, Speaker of the House Gillum, announced their tax farce committee, who was going to be on the tax farce, they said that they asked Jake Files if he wanted to run. I'm sorry, they asked Jake Files, if he, as the head of the Revenue and Tax, if he wanted to be on the committee. And Jake Files says, no, I'm too busy. I've got a new consultant job I'm taking, solar panels consulting job I'm taking in Texas. And they actually expected us to believe that they asked him if he wanted to be on the task force. I mean, I'm assuming he does have another job, Joe. You want to know how? All right, go to the next graphic, Joe. All right, so our next graphic is a photograph of Jake Files' house. You guys really need to see this. You guys need to go to paulharrell.com right now, the full house. paulharrell.com right now, because Jake Files' home, his 10,000 square foot home, is up for sale. Let me see. I know you guys can see it, but I can't. Let me find my. Hang on a second. Where did it go? I had mine up. It was right where I could see it. Hang on one second, folks, because I actually. Yeah, 10,000 square. No wonder Matt Pitch, by the way, wants to run for this seat. It seems to me like you're very, very much taken care of when you do.
5-bed, 5+ bathrooms.
Yeah.
You need 5 bedrooms with 5+ bathrooms.
Yeah, I know. What does it say there, Joe? It says how much is it on the market for? $1,675,000. Now that's quite a lot of money. You can see there in the photo, they've got a tennis court there. if you look to the left, the top left, you can see a little bit of a tennis court there. You can see a nice swimming pool. And you can also see a porte cochere. Ooh, porte cochere. Every time I see a porte cochere on a house, I'm like, ooh, a porte cochere. It's really nice.
They also have a very nice piece of shrubbery out front.
Oh, really? They have some shrubbery in the front. I don't know what you're talking about, Joe. What in the world could you be talking about? All right, so
I'm talking about this, Paul.
All right, so here's this. If you zoom in on this photo of Jake Files' house. If you zoom in on this photo of Jake Files' house, who has now decided to not run for re-election, essentially giving this seat away to Matt Pitch, you have a very interesting piece of shrubbery that, as I look at this, I think to myself, maybe this is two Fs, because his last name is Files, okay? Two Fs back to back, right? Or it could be two shoehorns arranged in a way where we are literally 2 marks away from a swastika. That's what I'm saying is this piece of shrubbery is two growths away from I mean, it's I'm not am I exaggerating? For those of you watching online, look at this photo. Look at this photo. This is hilarious. Just on its face. I'm not insinuating anything. I'm just saying that's a hilarious. I mean, hilarious in the context.
It's very much
of it's really close to a swastika.
It's very much a hilarious oversight by Jake Files himself.
Yeah. It's
or whoever chose the shrubbery to look
now,
like this.
for those of you who don't know, the swastika before Hitler in Germany, before the Nazis.
Yeah, it was a sign of peace.
It was actually a sign of peace.
Yeah, it was a Buddhist symbol.
Yeah. So, but that's not. I mean, it's just something I felt the need to point out. But go back to the actual mansion. Go back to the 10,000 square foot mansion that is now for sale. So a couple of things that we can take from this. Number one, Jake Files is getting out of Dodge. He's leaving. He has done his civic duty. And notice this Talk Business article did not mention the $80,000 he got from a healthcare executive. So this has gotten it's conspicuous how little coverage it's gotten. That a healthcare executive back in 2015, because of the discovery in the lawsuit within the city of Fort Smith, the discovery period, they found that he got $80,000 wired to his company from a healthcare executive. And you had Democrat Keith Ingram, Senator Ingram from West Memphis. He came out and said, well, I can't really say if that transfer was unethical or not. And I'm thinking, okay, is this the real reason the Democrat Party of Arkansas hasn't called for Jake Files' resignation? The Democrat Party of Arkansas should be screaming. And to me, it's perfectly reasonable. Here's the Democrat Party of Arkansas. Here's Republican Jake Files, who is not a platform Republican, who believes in bigger government, who believes in doing whatever the non-platform Republican establishment that controls this state wants them to do. And it's perfectly reasonable for the Democrats to say, hey, this guy needs to go. Look at all he's done. He's accused of forging contracts. of forging competitive bids when it comes to getting government grants and general improvement money. And by the way, that's just happens to be in the northwest part of the state, right next to Mike Neal and John Woods. And Mike Neal pled guilty to taking kickbacks. And then you have John Woods, who's going to trial. He thinks he's innocent somehow, some way. By the way, the fact that former Senator John Woods, pled not guilty, you could feel the exhale down to the Marble Palace. Because if he had pled guilty, that would have indicated that he would have made a plea deal, and that might have meant other people were coming down with him. A lot of people were excited that John Woods pled not guilty to those charges. I'm just letting you know. You heard it from me. The phone number to call us or text us, 870-275-9799. Throw the shrubbery back up there. So throw the shrubbery here. Okay, so all right, those of you watching and those of you listening, go to paulharrell.com on your mobile device. You can check us out Facebook Live. I'm going to leave this up during the break. I just want you to text me or call me, and if I'm crazy and that doesn't look like a World War II symbol or just a little close to it, please let me know. Feel free to agree with me, challenge me. 870-275-9799. The Liberty Machine rolls on. Back in a minute.
Come to Triple R Furniture and see our sofas, recliners, bedroom suites, and more. At Triple R Furniture, we'll deliver up to 50 miles away, and we're here to help you with all of your furniture needs. Triple R Furniture gives you the option to buy furniture outright or rent to own. We strive to make the financing process as easy as possible, which is why everyone is approved. At Triple R Furniture, we offer financing terms for 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months. We also offer a manager special. Come see us at the Highland Shopping Center in Highland, Arkansas for details. Customer satisfaction is our top priority at Triple R Furniture. Call us today at 870-856-8003 or find us on the web at triplrfurniture.com.
If you're like me, you believe that small business is the heart of Arkansas's economic engine, and it should be viewed that way by the politicians in Little Rock. Conduit for Commerce also believes, like you and I believe, policies that achieve less regulation and lower taxation help small business in Arkansas thrive. Other policies like small, constitutionally consistent government and reducing citizen dependency on government keeps it from growing and expanding its influence on our daily lives. Conduit for Commerce works every day to educate the general public and legislators on these important priorities in the name of Arkansas small business. By the way, contributions to Conduit for Commerce are tax deductible. Log on now to conduitforcommerce.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforcommerce.org. Go there now and learn the facts on protecting small business in Arkansas.
What you cooking? It smells familiar.
I'm cooking something amazing, new, and different, and you're going to love it, babe.
Really? It seems like we've had this dish before.
Don't believe me? Come and taste it for yourself.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm right. This tastes just like Obamacare.
No, actually, it's the new private option. I call this fantastic new dish Arkansas Works.
That's odd, because it looks and tastes just like Obamacare.
Why do you always have to be so critical? I'm in here cooking, trying to do something nice for the family.
Because I thought we talked about this before. I don't like Obamacare.
You just need to give it another chance.
So you admit it's the same?
No, it's different. It's Arkansas Works.
Let me ask you something. Does it smell like Obamacare?
Yes.
Does it taste like Obamacare?
I suppose so.
Are you using the same ingredients to make it as you used to make Obamacare?
Yes.
Then how is your so-called new dish, Arkansas Works, not Obamacare?
Well, let me explain, honey. You will remember, recently, I had my name legally changed at your request, right?
Yes, I know. You had it changed from Duke to Rover. I dislike the name Duke, and I think Rover sounds so much more personally responsible.
Well, now that I'm called Rover instead of Duke, I believe I can take the same recipe and ingredients and create a dish with the same smell and taste from before.
Okay.
And because of my name change, you will love it.
I'm not buying it. And I just realized the name Duke and Rover are both common names for dogs.
PHP Parody. The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back. Now, I know a lot of you, because here's the thing. Joe, can we go back real quick? Let's go back to the mansion. This is Senator Jake Files. This is his mansion. He's decided to not seek re-election. I know this is kind of cutting off my face here, so I'll back over here. So he's decided to not seek re-election. And this is a massive amount of space here. And I think this would surprise a lot of people. And I'm not diminishing wealth, okay? I'm not diminishing wealth. I think a lot of people, though, that a state senator would have a 10,000 square foot home. And now, of course, it's up for sale. He's in a lot of trouble. His company's in a lot of trouble, even though he got $80,000 from a healthcare lobbyist, even though he got a loan from another lobbyist in the tune of $30,000 from Bruce Hawkins. I just think a lot of people would be, this is a very gorgeous property. Ignore the weird-looking shrubbery there that obviously, we've kind of pointed that out for you. You can see that there. The question's got to be asked, though, has he gotten this wealthy based on his construction company? And his construction company is now in the news because of the political donation and because $700,000 worth of liens and judgments against his company because he hasn't paid these subcontractors. The point has to at least be made. I feel like the point at least has to be made because we've said this before, that his construction company is probably the worst construction company in the country as far as luck goes. I mean, they're extremely unlucky, right? I mean, that whole thing with Fort Smith now suing them because they took general improvement money. Also, they tried to work on one of the city manager's apartment buildings, and the city manager gave him $38,000, and they say he's essentially, didn't go to Home Depot and buy those shingles right away. This is all stuff you can look up. You can Google Jake File's name, and ever since January, we've had this slow bleed, and no one has asked him to resign except for me. Right? No one has asked him. The Democrat Party hasn't even asked him to resign. And that should tell you something, Arkansas. That should tell you something. It should tell you that we have the same agenda, the same team in leadership in Arkansas, from the governor's mansion to the Senate House to the House, from the Senate chamber to the House chamber. We have people who are playing on the same team here. I mean, let's let you just talk real quick about the Second Amendment. Okay, I was just having a conversation with somebody about the campus carry bill. Remember that? That was a complete disaster. The campus carry bill was a complete disaster. We had to sit there and watch this bill get picked to pieces by non-platform establishment Republicans who didn't really want to go out and advocate for your Second Amendment rights. They were scared to do it. The governor was scared to do it and go to the mat. And instead, we got this ridiculous extra concealed carry license, which, by the way, undermines open carry, in my opinion. In the Act 746, that's very clear. We have this ridiculous extra, and the NRA went along with it. You know why the NRA went along with it? Because the governor and the negotiations that went into place, they said, well, people will be able to carry in football stadiums. They will be able to carry in college events. And NRA said, hey, well, that moves the needle because no one in the country can you do that. Okay, we'll do it. We'll go to the mat with you, Governor. So the governor has this press conference. He gets to sign this NRA-backed bill. He gets to have all this credit. I support the Second Amendment, and this is a good process. And in the same press conference, he has the President Pro Temp of the Senate, Jonathan Dismayne, come up and assuage everyone's fears and say, don't worry, we've got another bill that's going to undermine what we just took credit for that the NRA had to come out and oppose, that undoes the one thing that got the NRA on board to begin with. And you start to think, Governor Hutchinson's got to go to the mat with, just like on religious freedom. Back in a moment.
Supporting to raise our taxes when they campaigned against that. And he said that was a head fake, and I didn't know what I was talking about, and that this tax already exists. We're just not collecting it. But then we come to find out that this internet sales tax probably isn't even constitutional, would probably have never gotten past the courts, especially with Gorsuch sitting on it.
Yeah.
And so, no, they would have never had this money. And it's craziness that these so-called conservatives are down there spending so much, and when they have to cut, they whine and complain and lament it. We should be rejoicing in cutting the size and scope of government.
Yeah, and I'll remind, the audience that it's still an increase. So when we say that ASA had to cut $70 million one week and $43 million the next, He's actually just cutting from his increase. He still has increased spending in the years 2015, 2016, and 2017. And without the cuts he recently made, it was almost $500 million in increased spending since the governor has been in office. And there are people saying, I think rightfully so, that when you cut taxes here and there, even though I don't believe he's done serious tax reform like we need, when you cut taxes and you don't get spending under control and you continue to spend more and more each year, that is a recipe for having a revenue shortfall. Would you agree with that, Richard?
Oh, absolutely. When you just start spending more and you're increasing the size of government, you're growing government jobs. They like to say that our unemployment is rather low in Arkansas. Well, I can tell you, when you talk to the average person on the street in our state, especially when you go to towns like Ash Flat or Salem or even here Mountain Home, it doesn't feel like the unemployment rate is that low. Because even if people are employed, the standard of living is quite low. And so, no, the government should be spurring great economic growth. We have a Republican state house and state senate and a Republican governor. We should be having the most economic-friendly bills being passed down there this past session. It should have been a beautiful thing to see. But instead, we saw just more of the status quo, liberal, big government elite down in Little Rock trying at every step they could to grow the amount of revenue the state was collecting. And when we say that, we have to know that what they're wanting to do is take more of what's in your wallet and give it to the state. And that's not what we elect Republicans to do. And I've heard you say it, Paul. What we need is platform Republicans. We need these people who believe in our platform, who believe in the principles of our party, and can intellectually defend those principles. Not just people who run for office, say, hey, I'm an elected Republican, I believe in the Bible and our guns, vote for me. That shouldn't be enough anymore. Mm-hmm. And reasons like this budget shortfall are why that's not enough, because we need representatives and senators down there who truly understand that having a small and limited government and reducing the size and what that government can do in our state with regulatory reform, tax reform, all these different types of reforms that we conservatives talk about all the time, that's what generates growth in the economy.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the show. We appreciate you being with us. We can't do the program without you, and I mean that with all sincerity, because if you don't listen, then what's the point, And if you don't take action, then what's the point? And I want to hear from you. You can call us or text us, and when you do, feel free to let us know how you're listening. Are you listening on Facebook Live, watching paulharrell.com, YouTube, however it is, or are you listening on one of our terrestrial radio affiliates? And just feel free to tell us where you're from, what county you're from, and how it is that you're listening to the program. And we'd love to hear from you in that regard. That phone number, 870-275-9799. 870-275-9799. Now, this is kind of some new ground that we're covering here, but I just want to say it's pretty. That house was beautiful, right? Jake Files' house that he's selling. He's now moving. Yeah, throw that back up there one more time. So Jake Files is now moving to Texas, presumably because he's got a job, some consultant company. Solar panel.
He has more freedom to cheat the system.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Does this solar panel consultant company not have Google? In the job market now, people, they look at your Facebook profile. There's a lot of stories out there about what are millennials going to do when they enter the workforce. I mean, they're essentially they're just down to hoping that all of the other applicants have been as careless on their social media accounts where it's just like you're weird if you don't have something compromising out there on your social media accounts. You would think that maybe, hey, let's Google Senator Jake Files. Oh, okay, you're a former senator, not going to run again. You can come work for my solar panel company as a consultant, which means we may be voting on some solar panel legislation soon. Who knows? Some subsidizing. But what I guess what I would say is, hang on. What did you just say, Joe?
What are Jake Files' qualifications to be able to do something like that? To be a consultant.
He's been in government and he knows people. I mean,
that's all it takes.
He's trying to sell a 10,000 square foot house now. His company now has let's see, what did it say? Is it a $1 million foreclosure from Fannie Mae as well? So he's kind of got to do something. Now we really should have our countdown. I would say this: the countdown should be, when will Jake Files get offered a government job? He's now the front runner. Your front runner from going from state legislator to government bureaucrat or government job or being on some sweet commission somewhere is now Senator Jake Files. He is now the front runner. We don't have a countdown. Joe, we don't actually have a countdown, but we put a poll up on Facebook. This was probably last year sometime. Facebook.com/Paul Talk Show. And I don't think Jake Files' name was on the list. It was just kind of an informal, hey, sound off in the comments. Do you think it's A, this guy, B, that guy? Who's going to get a government job next? Because we've had this revolving door of politicians that go to work for the governor or go to work for one of the governor's agencies. And Jake Files was a team player. He failed to get SB 140, the internet sales tax, through, thank goodness. He failed because platform Republicans stood up to this blank check. They were going to give the governor all this money. They wanted, if for the purposes of fairness, which I disagree, I don't think it's unfair to buy something on the internet versus a brick-and-mortar store and not pay sales tax. I don't think that's unfair. That's just my opinion, though. I understand there are people that disagree with me on that. But there were Republicans that just wanted to allocate the money for actual tax reduction or allocate the money to pay for roads directly. But none of the non-platform establishment Republicans wanted to do that. They all wanted to have the money for some other reason. Fast forward a month later, yada, yada, yada. And the governor says we have to give him $105 million into a long-term reserve fund to enhance our bond rating. When in reality, I think it's possible it was to keep our bond rating. And now we know why so many of the revenue increasing schemes were implemented in this last General Assembly at the non-platform establishment Republican the leadership is what I'm trying to say. Again, that phone number, 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Big news from a couple of days ago. There was an audit that many people don't want to pay attention to, believe it or not, because it shows the government as being inept, and it shows the massive amount of fraud that does inevitably happen when you give away something for free. The state agency, this is Brian Fanny, state agency tasked with administering food programs that were plagued by fraud, totaling millions of dollars, was the subject of several critical findings released Friday by the Arkansas Legislative Audit. On a Friday, by the way. I wonder why you release something like that on a Friday. The programs to feed hungry children include an at-risk after-school component during the school year and a summer nutrition program to feed children while school is out. An ongoing fraud investigation pursued by the U.S. Department of Agriculture, the FBI, the Internal Revenue Service, and the U.S. Marshals Service has unearthed more than $11 million in fraud in the programs. The State Department of Human Services failed to develop internal controls, was behind in performing compliance reviews, did not require recipients for reimbursement claims. Did not require receipts for reimbursement claims, and had an insufficient system for monitoring nonprofit institutions, Arkansas Legislative Audit told legislators. I feel like that's an important paragraph. Anybody? Oh, don't worry, the government can, and the next time there's a new idea, a new government program, no, none of this stuff will ever happen. It'll be fine. Just trust us. The State Department of Human Services, DHS, failed to develop internal controls, was behind in performing compliance reviews, did not require receipts for reimbursement claims 2 in a row, and had an insufficient system for monitoring nonprofit institutions. Do you know why? This is a very simple answer. Do you know why they failed at those things? It's very simple. It's not their money. And if it's not your money, you don't care if someone's in compliance. If your job is only seen to administer a free program, in this case, it's for the kids. It's free lunch. It's for the kids. Then you think that your goal is to just effectively deliver the service, not actually scrutinize who's on it or who's, in this case, adults making a lot of money off of this. Listen to this. Keisha Smith. Keisha Smith is the deputy director of the department, told members of Legislative Joint Auditing Committee that it had entered into contracts with out-of-state firms that specialize in ensuring the federal dollars are spent properly. The state agency itself can't contain this. So we'll enter into contracts with out-of-state companies, and this is their specialty. Quote, when you look at the finding results, often we were in the process of making the necessary corrections, she said. We don't take any instance of fraud lightly. What kind of response is that? I mean, that's one that is like, there's nothing really wrong here. That's what that kind of response is. That's from a motivation of trying to diminish the condemning results. And people in government do this all the time, and they never lose credibility because it's always about their mission. And it's always about we've got to help. We got to help these folks. We got to help these people. And notice they never fully complete their task. Government never starts up to address a problem, fixes the problem, and then shrinks. By startup, I mean it grows. Oh, we've got a problem. Let's grow. Let's address it, and let's now go away. The issue is if the problem never goes away, maybe the government shouldn't exist in many regards. Not in all, but in many regards. Maybe the government shouldn't. Maybe that shouldn't be its charter. If you're trying to fix problems that just never, ever, 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 ever go away. Is that a radical idea? Yeah, it is in today, but not for the first 100 years of America's existence. It wasn't. It wasn't radical at all. It was actually our default. It was how we were wired. Let me read that quote again. When you look at the finding results, often we were in the process of making the necessary corrections. We don't take any instance of fraud lightly. You see how those two, you see how she's like, kind of, it's like a seesaw. It's like, well, this is really no, big deal because we were on it. We knew about it. Oh, but we don't take it lightly. Assistant U.S. Attorney Jana Harris, Allison Bragg, and Cameron McCree have said Human Services Department insiders paved the way for the others to sign up as sponsors for food providing programs operated by the Child and Adult Care Feeding Program. In some cases, no children were served. Tanique Hatton of North Little Rock and Gladys Elise Waits of England, who both work for the Human Services Department, have admitted to being the gatekeepers who, in return for bribes, made it possible for others to defraud the program. Of 14 people charged in 9 indictments related to the scheme since December 2014, 2 were convicted in a jury trial in April and await sentencing. 5 pleaded guilty and have been sentenced, and 7 others who pleaded guilty before trial also await sentencing. Senator Terry Rice, a Republican from Waldron, was the only lawmaker to follow up on the audit findings during the meeting. Senator Terry Rice, a Republican from Waldron, was the only lawmaker to follow up on the audit findings during the meeting. Platform Republican, this Terry Rice. Quote, "We need to do everything we can to at least make people understand somebody's looking at this or we're inviting fraud," he told Human Services Department officials. The new contracts, which went into effect in February and March, are paid by federal funds. Now, this did not go without notice to one Senator Brian King. So Senator Brian King over on Twitter. Let me see here. 1 second. I've got it on my tweet deck here. He was tweeting him and this is great. He and State Representative Josh Miller kind of went back and forth, and they pinged. They pinged somehow. Recent former Speaker of the House Davy Carter got. Here's the thing: former Republican Speaker of the House Davy Carter is on Twitter wanting an independent person to investigate the Russia allegations in the Trump administration. That should tell you how Republican the former Speaker of the House, Republican Davy Carter, is. Just FYI. This was in response to a John Brummett tweet. Let me just read all this to you. John Brummett writes, "Trump fires Comey either for investigating him or not delivering him a bigger victory." Davy Carter, quote, "With this development, sure feels like the country will finally demand an independent person overseeing some of these matters." Folks, the Russia story is a scam. It's a complete scam. And it's very simple. I will reiterate this for you. Donald Trump ran for president of the United States against the media. Donald Trump won. The night of the election, they all looked like morons. It was one of the most entertaining spectacles I've ever seen in my life. I couldn't decide whether I needed to watch more PBS, more CNN, more MSNBC. PBS, I think, was actually the best, by the way. It was hilarious. Those guys, they were hilarious. But CNN was really great. It was fantastic, right? And then he's continued to call them out. He's continued to call them out on their fake news. What do you do if somebody that you already don't like, right? And you're already a dishonest person like the mainstream media is, and you don't like them. But if somebody you don't like, and and they come up to you and they call you out on everything that's wrong with you, and it all turns out to be true, and they get rewarded by it, they get rewarded for it. What's the human response? To come back at them with everything they can. To leave what little journalistic credibility they have and literally just throw it in the fire. And what the mainstream media is doing, I really think we're witnessing this, is they are actually starting the process of consigning them and who they are. And I'm talking about CBS and NBC and ABC to the dustbin of history. What they are doing is, it is a danger to the American people putting out such information that it is so biased that the only thing that bothers me that I am actually legitimately worried about is that there are people that watch CNN and they think, oh, wow, this is unbiased. There are those people that still exist, and that really bothers me. But anyway, sorry, the Russian story is a complete fraud. All right. So Brian King, quote, "I think with the corruption that's been going on in Little Rock, there needs to be independent investigation there as well," responding to Davy Carter. Wow, that's interesting. Former Speaker of the House, Davy Carter, getting called out on Twitter by Brian King. Brian King, especially with all this coming out about Medicaid, consultants, families being hired, best friends get cool lobbying jobs, lawyers on retainer. Ooh, wow, Brian King again. Hang on. State Representative Josh Miller responds, "For some reason, I don't think that I'm in line to get one of those jobs." Brian King, "What about getting money for being a consultant? Any luck with that?" Josh Miller, "I can do plenty of consulting, but I'm not sure that anyone in Little Rock would pay money for my consultations." Brian King, "Yeah, I haven't been offered anything either. Guess you have to give out billions in Medicaid, then you get cool jobs and consulting money." Josh Miller, "Well, I'm not any good at that, so I guess I'll just stick to representing my district and trying to make a living in Cleburne County. Brian King, still haven't heard from Davy Carter and John Brummett about all the corruption in Medicaid in Arkansas. Guess it's something that should be ignored. Now, to clarify, that was an indirect response to this story here about the findings in the audit of fraud. That DHS just kind of was like, yeah, I'm sure everything will be fine. Kids are going to get the food. And people were able to profit $11 million. They were able to steal. Sorry, I didn't mean to use the word profit there. It's the Democrats that they've corrupted me because they want you to think the word profit means you've gotten it illegally. We got to take a break, folks. 870-275-9799. You see the number, 870-275-9799. Call or text. Let me know. What do you think? Back in a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
If you would like information about advertising or supporting the Paul Harrell Program and Conduit Media Group, call 870-275-9755. Join the fight against big government and advance the preservation of liberty by calling 870-275-9755. The Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Who's next to Zipline?
Me, and I'm really excited about this.
Sir, I'm sorry. The Zipline has a 350-pound weight limit, and frankly, I do not think it would be safe for you.
Oh, that's okay. I self-identify as 180 pounds, so it's cool.
Sir, that doesn't make any sense to me, and I'm afraid we can't let you ride the Zipline. You're too heavy. I'm sorry.
I can't believe this. I thought we had evolved as a society. I thought this was America, but I guess this is just my plight. First slavery, and now fat shaming.
Sir, again, I'm really sorry.
You listen to me. If you don't let me ride, not only will I sue this company for discrimination, I will sue you for damages because right now my feelings are so hurt and I feel embarrassed because I'm holding up the line.
Wouldn't be the first time.
Watch it, mister.
Look, okay, I'm sorry. I just don't think it would be safe for you.
You don't understand. I self-identify as skinny. So you have to let me ride the zip line. The Constitution says so. I get to define my own reality.
Okay, fine, whatever. Ride the zip line. Mike, let this man ride the zip line.
Thank you. Now watch as my self-identity trumps your bigotry. See you on the other side, racist. Here I go! Doctor, thank goodness. What's the prognosis?
Sir, we've done everything we can, and you only have seconds to live.
No, you cannot say that. I do not self-identify as a dead person.
PHP Parody.
All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks so much for being with us. Hey, let's go to the phones. We're going to talk to Scott. Scott is calling in Greene County. Scott, welcome to the Paul Harrell program. What's on your mind?
Hey, Paul, thank you. I've been listening to you about a year and a half. Love your show. Just you do a great job, and I appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Comments you made a while ago about people, who watch CNN or different news stations and just take it as a gospel truth. It happens everywhere. I got a lot of Republican buddies, and they watch Fox News and they swear by it. It's the only news. If people don't start looking around, and just because CNN says something or Fox says something, do your own research. Look it up. There's a lot of ways you can find out what's going on besides watching mainstream media on television. The internet. Look it up. Just ask somebody. If we don't start paying attention to what's going on in this country, I mean, I'm telling you, it's getting bad. I grew up a Democrat. I voted Republican. I'm more of an independent now because there's some things the Republicans do I love, some things they don't. Same with the Democrats. People have just got to quit thinking because it's on the news, on television, or on the radio. It's gospel truth. Look it up yourself and think about it. Use your own judgment.
I completely agree with you. Thomas Jefferson said an educated citizenry is indispensable to the proper functioning of a republic. And right now, the corporate media, I think, is doing a disservice to the American people. And in some cases, yeah, that does include Fox News. Certainly it includes the others. The internet, in many ways, and the fact that the mainstream media started the fake news narrative as trying to blame, and Facebook's now trying to censor things that they disagree with and calling it fake news and that sort of thing. The internet is such an effective way to communicate the truth, and yeah, there's fake stuff out there, but it's a way to get around the Jake Tappers, the Rachel Maddows, you can get around what their pre-approved scripts that they're reading off a teleprompter are telling them to say and report. They leave the relevant truth on the cutting room floor so often, and there are so many good resources out there on the internet that are getting around that firewall that they had for so long. And I really do appreciate the comment. Scott, do you want a free Liberty Machine T-shirt?
Absolutely. I'd love one. I'll wear it proudly every day.
Perfect. Well, hey, I'm going to give you one. Stay on the line, and we'll get your address and get it sent out to you. Yes, sir.
Can I make one more quick comment?
Yes.
There's something, too, and I want to tell this younger generation. I'm almost 48 years old. I got a couple of 22-year-old kids, 21 and 20-year-old. If you read it on the internet or Facebook or social media puts it up there, and you look at it, you say, wait a minute, it's on here. Before you believe it, go get your TV guy, go to the TV and look at some of the news networks, see if they're reporting it. If something major happens, it's going to be on everywhere, not just one or two places. That's something I think a lot of these kids nowadays, they see it on Facebook and they think, oh, my God, this is happening. Just because Facebook says it, turn on your news, see what they're saying. It's usually 90% of the time it's not even there. You know?
Well, and in some cases that's on purpose to keep people in the dark. But Scott, hey, I appreciate it, sir. I appreciate it. We got to end the hour. We're up against a hard break, but stay on the line. We get your address, and I'll get you a Liberty Machine T-shirt. And folks, you can get those too. They're for sale at paulharrell.com. We have one more hour coming your way next. Don't go anywhere.
Rush, Glenn, Sean, and Paul. This is Jonesboro's 1013 FM News Talk, KBTM.
Reducing the size and what that government can do in our state with regulatory reform, tax reform, all these different types of reforms that we conservatives talk about all the time. That's what generates growth in the economy. And at the end of the day, that's what will fund our roads and bridges and services that we want our government to provide. But it's by growing the economic center. It's not by growing government. That's never how it works.
Yeah, you are exactly right. Matter of fact, I think you could make an argument that's possible that some of these corporate shortfalls, that are because we keep giving giant corporations tax breaks, so they don't have to pay as much, because in the name of economic development and so on and so forth. I like how you say, Richard, that the 3.6% unemployment. You look around your town, it doesn't feel that low. I think there are other people as well. There's a headline by Stacy Ryburn. Northwest Arkansas seeing more panhandlers on the streets, officials say. I've seen people on Twitter talk about more and more panhandlers. I've seen more and more panhandlers, and you just kind of wonder, hey, but our economy's fantastic. But I feel like I have seen an uptick in people actually just asking the question, hey, what happened? I'm seeing a lot of people on the streets with their hand out. Have you noticed that at all?
Absolutely. And, the way we've structured politics in Arkansas these past few years is that the economy's great if you can afford a few lobbyists. The economy's great if you can fund a few campaigns, get in the right circles. If you own a big enough corporation to get a handout, the economy's great. If you own enough nursing homes to get on the right government board, the economy's great for you. But for the average guy, the average business owner, the amount, you go to things like our alcohol beverage control and how outlandish those regulations are in the state of Arkansas. Or you go to ADEQ and how they can go in and cripple a small business in the state of Arkansas if they choose to. And that's the equivalent of our Environmental Protection Agency. So we have it's basically a microcosm of our federal government down in Little Rock. And you'd think we would be in an Arkansas springtime with the very first time in 100 years that we have, a state house and a state senate, and our constitutional offices controlled by Republicans. But we're not. We're living through the Beebe legacy all over again. And it's time that we as conservatives stand up and primary these darn people who go down there, tell us one thing to our faces, and sit on those committees and vote the wrong way, and then there's no record of their vote. Or they go down there and they support these pieces of legislation that counter our party's principles. Our party better dang well stand up and say, that's not right. That's not what we as a people support and stand for, and we're going to change it. And if that takes primarying some of our friends, then let's do it.
Yeah, and and the primaries are really the only place where the people, at this point, when you see how the establishment is so dominant in pushing out limited government platform Republican thought, the primaries are your only real chance to to really stand up for the values in the Republican Party platform, and that's when you have races on specific issues or specific votes the incumbent has taken, and it really ends up giving, especially the primary challenger, if he wins, it gives him a mandate to go down there and change things and do things differently. Before he ends up giving, especially the primary challenger, if he wins, it gives him a mandate to go down there and change things and do things differently. Before we go, Richard, I want to get your opinion on the tax task force. We now know that the Dismang, Speaker of the House, Gillum, they have appointed this tax task force. We weren't able to do real tax reform, so now we're going to do a task force. So Senator Hendren got on it, Keith Ingram got on it, Joyce Elliott, Bart Hester, Missy Irvin, Larry Teague, Dave Wallace.
The maintenance of a free society is a very difficult and complicated thing, and it requires a self-denying ordinance of the most extreme kind. It requires a willingness to put up with temporary evils on the basis of the subtle and sophisticated understanding that if you step in to do something about them, you not only may make them worse, but you will spread your tentacles and get bad results elsewhere.
I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the Founding Fathers. We lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
You're listening to the Paul Harrell Program, brought to you by Conduit Media Group.
Hey, folks, it's hour number 2. My name is Paul. Thank you so much for being with us. We're building a Liberty machine here, and we need your help to do it. The phone number, call, text 870-275-9799. Hey, welcome back to the program. We have State Representative Nelda Speaks, the happiest warrior in all of the Capitol down in Little Rock. She's from District 100, which is in Mountain Home. Nelda, welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Paul, and it's so great to be back.
It is always a pleasure to have you on. Tell us, how's your district doing? I mean, I know you came on last time and you talked about the session, the first session, but now we're done with the first extraordinary session. And how are the folks back home?
They seem very good. When I got back home, I hear nothing but compliments, and so that's always a pleasure to know that they're behind you and you have done what you said you would do. And so there, I mean, it's we didn't have all the rain that other people had, and so we're in good shape here. We have some road problems. I mean, but nothing like what it's minute to what it is other places.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I know that's certainly something to bring up because I know a lot of folks are. I mean, I know in my neck of the woods, well, not technically not my neck of the woods, but a little bit north of where I live. I mean, they've got communities up there that have been devastated, and just hopefully with the relief efforts that have been going on, things will get back to normal sooner rather than later. Go ahead.
I hope so. It looks like it's beginning to get better for those folks, and you pray for them. They're devastated in areas.
We're talking with State Representative Nelda Speaks, and so tell us about this extraordinary session. Special session is what they call it, but it's supposed to be, hey, we got to have you guys down here now to take care. I mean, that's kind of originally what this was meant to do. Now they're not really used for that. They're kind of used to patch up things that maybe didn't get done before. What were your thoughts on that special session?
I was very disappointed in this one. Number one, this health care thing, that it was just such a hurry to get something done on that. And, we don't even know what Washington, D.C. is going to do. And it's just things that we took care of, and then we transfer this money, which I am always against that. This is like a savings. It was for health care, and then we transfer over, and it'll be used for whatever we want to, because there's loopholes that's been put into that bill. And I was just ashamed that we would vote to do that.
Specifically, you're talking about the $105 million transfer to what is being called a long-term reserve fund. There was some debate back and forth between, whether or not the Legislative Council should have a say or whether the full General Assembly should have a say. What do you say on that?
The Legislative Council is handpicked, and and it's the same way it is with this insurance marketplace. I mean, we shifted all of that over, took the voice of the people away. When we lose our voice in Little Rock, then we've lost the voice for our county. And so it's it'll go the way they want it to. And I mean, I'm very conservative, and I feel like we need to cut budgets. We don't need to just start using up revenues that's laying out there, and if it's any revenues that's laying someplace, that's what they're going to go after. And I think that we are missing the boat by not just going in and trimming budgets. We always say we can't make it without the money we've got, but we know different.
Yeah, there's a lot of waste out there, and also I think a lot of just misguided missions of what the government thinks is their responsibility. Let me ask you this, specifically on this $105 million transfer to the long-term reserve fund, right?
Yes.
Is it? Can I conclude that you're afraid this money's going to get spent? Is that what you think?
I think it's gone myself. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but whenever you move money and get it in the hands to where people can get a hold of it, you know good and well we are 70,000 in the red, not red, but we're 70,000 down, or 70 million shortfall right now, and we've got a highway bill that's needing out here, and so I think some of it will go for that, because in that there was loopholes that said it would only be used for certain things, but if something come up or something, I don't remember just how that bill read.
I mean, so the leadership, the Republican Party leadership, they are saying that this money is for the long-term reserve fund. It can be used for Amendment 82 super projects, but that it is to get a better bond rating. Now, I kind of was suspicious when they started saying, hey, if we have this money here, it'll look good and we'll get a better bond rating, which really translates to we'll be able to go into more debt at a lower interest rate. That's what that means as a state.
Right.
But, do you let me just say this. Do you trust there was some, I guess there was some comments made in the joint budget by Senator Jason Rapert and then Senator Alan Clark that identified a lot of the problem conservatives were having with this was that they just didn't trust what was being said, what was being told to everyone that this is why we needed to do this. And I know trust was an issue because that was also echoed by your colleague, Representative Ballinger, when he went to the floor and said, I'm sticking my neck out for you, Governor. To me, State Representative speaks, if you have to say that on the House floor, then there's a lot of people maybe that really do maybe not trust what they're being told by their people in their own party.
I absolutely believe you're right on. There is no trust, and there is, things that we've been told, and then you really research it, and that's why I was such a no vote on so many things down there this time. You don't want to be known as the no vote person, but there's a lot of trust. You're sticking your neck out on some things, and I'm not willing to do that. I have never done that on the health care, and I'm not going to start on other things. And I'd rather be a no vote and things work out okay than you just say, well, it's better that way. It worked out all right. Is to be a yes vote and then find out that I got snuckered. I guess that's a good word.
What a polite way to put being misled by members of your own party. But that's why I really like you, State Representative Nellie Speaks. I really do. You mentioned earlier that you were disappointed in the healthcare aspect of things. Now, and this is another trust concept to me because they were saying, hey, this is going to institute work requirements. This is going to institute. This is going to allow us to get the work requirements that we want for this program. They told us we had work requirements last time, and that really wasn't the case. It was work referrals. That's pretty much out in the open now, and that's the issue. Is that whatever they say ends up really you finding out that it's not quite the case 6 months from now, a year from now, and then we have to come back and do something else. Was that kind of your fear here on the Arkansas Works work requirements, quote, end quote?
We know that the federal government is not going to let you force people to go to work in order to get things. I mean, it has never worked, and it's not going to now. They say, well, we put 3,000 people back to work, but it's out of what, 300 and something million people? I mean, 300,000, I guess it is. But, I mean, we're not getting them back to work. And when they tell you that it's going to, we're taking people off, and we heard all these great big numbers, but then you begin to hear there's very few people that even fall in that range.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly right. And you realize that, if you work, I mean, they're talking about a 20-hour, some people are saying a 20-hour-a-week work requirement. Well, if you work 30 hours a week, you'd make too much money. You wouldn't qualify for the government program.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what are we talking about here? Part-time work requirements? And it's just these buzzwords. And then you hear the governor, he goes on, national outlets, and he starts talking about how the Washington, D.C. proposal that has passed the House is not good because it does wind down Medicaid expansion at some point. And it according to him, it shifts too many costs to the state. And it's just, you can just tell people don't want to have the argument anymore, the philosophical argument, should we be paying for able-to-work adults who are choosing not to work to get free health care?
See, I, for one, no. I believe that we are taking pride away from these people. We need to force them, but of course, like I said, I don't believe you can do that. But as long as we pay for their housing, food, we make sure they've got food on the table. We give them phones. We're covering everything. So they have no incentive to go to work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so to me, we kicked the can on down the road. This made sure that we got to keep Arkansas Works.
Let me shift gears and just kind of breach one more topic.
Okay.
With you.
Okay.
So I just mentioned this trust gap. That is prevalent. It is there. And I want to take you back to the beginning of the first session. You did vote for the tax shifting for the military so military retirees could get a tax cut. Can you walk us through how Republicans like yourself kind of got in a position to where the leadership said, well, if you don't vote against this, you're voting against the troops?
Well, number one, the reason that I did, and I think there were other people out there, other legislators that was in the same boat, I had phone calls because we knew that there was going to be a bill coming up that would do, give them that tax break. And so I said, yes, I am for that because I know that everything I can find out that in the long haul, that's going to be good for the state. And I think we do owe them some things when they've gone to war. I mean, maybe not war, but they're over there for so many months away from their family, and their families are suffering. But so I had promised people, the veterans, that I would vote for that when we got down there, and then they began to put all of this stuff, attachments to it, pork on it, and I felt like either way I went, Paul, was not good because, number one, I do not want to be called a liar, and I don't want to be a liar and tell people I will do something and then I don't do it.
In this case, supporting the military retiree tax cut. That's what you'd already told people you were going to do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, continue.
So I felt like I had no choice but to vote for it. But then we got all of these attachments on that over and above pays for that. You know, it wasn't going to, I mean, we just seen a gap there that we could put all this stuff on there and mean more money for the state. And I'm not down there for that. I'm against that. But since I had my word was out there, I went ahead and I voted for it.
Well, I certainly appreciate you coming on the program and and explaining that process, because I obviously I can sympathize with that. Committing to the folks in your district, hey, you would support this, but then you get down there, and they added all that other stuff, and they actually ended up raising more revenue than they needed to pay for it. And, but it's a tough situation. And I would just say this. It's a situation that the Republican leadership shouldn't have put other Republicans in my opinion.
Paul, we've been put in so many situations that we should never have been put in because we are increasing government. And we say out here that that's part of our platform. We are for less government. But we don't find that. Mm-hmm. It's like we forget what our platform is, what we absolutely stand for as a party. And that bothers me because I don't know what we're going to do to change some of this. I mean, you can be a no vote and you're only one vote and you try to convince other people, but I don't have that loud a voice, I guess.
Well, hey, I'm glad that you came on and and you're on the program and you're talking to your constituents and other people across the state as well. We appreciate it. You're a happy warrior. State Representative Nelda Speaks from District 100 out of Mountain Home. Be safe, and we will talk to you very soon.
Thank you, Paul. It's always great to talk to you.
Alrighty.
Have a great evening.
Yes, ma'am. Be safe. Folks, we got to take a break. Got to go. Back in just a moment.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Come to Triple R Furniture and see our sofas, recliners, bedroom suites, and more. At Triple R Furniture, we'll deliver up to 50 miles away, and we're here to help you with all of your furniture needs. Triple R Furniture gives you the option to buy furniture outright or rent to own. We strive to make the financing process as easy as possible, which is why everyone is approved. At Triple R Furniture, we offer financing terms for 3 months, 6 months, and 9 months. We also offer a manager special. Come see us at the Highland Shopping Center in Highland, Arkansas for details. Customer satisfaction is our top priority at Triple R Furniture. Call us today at 870-856-8003 or find us on the web at triplrfurniture.com.
Arkansas small businesses are tired of taxes that are too high and regulations that work as obstacles to small business success. If you own a small business, it's time to take action. Now, I'm not talking about the local chambers of commerce. I'm talking about an organization that's actually run by small business owners and are fighting for small businesses right here in the state of Arkansas. They're called Conduit for Action, and they're on your side. Conduit for Action is here not to get something from the government, but to be left alone by the government. Think of them as your personal advocate for limited government at the Capitol in Little Rock. If you're tired of all the politicians talking with no results and ready for action, start outsourcing your government affair needs with Conduit for Action. Go now to conduitforaction.org and click on Contact Us on the right side of the page. That's conduitforaction.org and stand up for small business in Arkansas. Whether you're looking for a small desktop copier and printer, thinking about adding color to your documents, or considering a document management solution, Total Document Solutions is there to help. In business for decades, Total Document Solutions is an independently owned company that specializes in the ability to provide a high level of service in Northwest Arkansas, the Arkansas River Valley, Southwest Missouri, and Southeast Kansas as an exclusive Platinum Authorized Sales Agent for the Xerox Corporation. At Total Document Solutions, they offer customers technology services to improve business results. Their dedicated sales team has the unmatched industry knowledge, professionalism, and expertise needed to address the unique challenges of your business. Total Document Solutions is independent, local, and well-connected to serve your office products and document needs. Call them today at 479-575-0770. That's 479-575-0770 for your Total Document Solutions.
The Paul Harrell Program.
Welcome back to the program. Thank you so much for being with us. All right. Telephone number to call us or text us today is 870-275-9799. If you missed the first hour of the show, you should go see it. You should go watch it. If you watch any broadcast of the program, you've got to go watch the program because we had some interesting visuals for you. One of the main headlines, breaking news today, is that Jake Files has announced that he will not seek re-election because Representative Matthew Pitch of Fort Smith, he's announced that he's going to run for the seat. Which we, of course, know that's not the reason. The reason Matthew Pitch announced he's running, okay, is because there's no way Jake Files can stay in office, okay? And Matthew Pitch is really just a Chamber of Commerce, flawed economic development philosophy, replacement. It's just like one chamber plant to another plant. Now, speaking of plants, the plants or shrubs in Jake Files' home that he has now put up for sale, the 10,000 square foot, $1.6 million, he is now taking a job in Texas. He's essentially being run out of town because of the problems with his business, the problems with his political life, the problems with getting all this money from healthcare lobbyists and stuff like that. You've got to go watch the program so you can see Jake Files' shrubbery in his front yard, his 10,000 square foot. Now, think about this. Who thought? Who would have thought? I'm going to be a state senator when I grow up and have a 10,000 square foot mansion. I'm going to be the Bruce Wayne of Arkansas, except, minus the superhero and, and hair. But who would have thought that you'd have such a lucrative. You got to wonder you just got to wonder, with all the trouble his business has had financing. What's the mortgage payment on a 10,000 square foot house? Or he's selling it for $1.6 million. I'd be interested to know how much he bought it for. Anyway, you want to go back and watch hour number 1. Now we've got more to get to. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment. Ends up giving, especially the primary challenger, if he wins, it gives him a mandate to go down there and change things and do things differently. Before we go, Richard, I want to get your opinion on the tax task force. We now know that the Dismang, Speaker of the House, Gillum, they have appointed this tax task force. We weren't able to do real tax reform, so now we're going to do a task force. So Senator Hendren got on it, Keith Ingram got on it, Joyce Elliott, Bart Hester, Missy Irvin, Larry Teague, Dave Wallace. Out of the House, we got Matthew Pitch, Kenneth Ferguson, that's a Democrat, Joe Jett, a new Republican, Francis Kavanaugh, a Republican, Bob Johnson, a Democrat, Jim Dotson, a Republican from Bentonville, and Warwick Sabin, a Democrat from Little Rock. And I guess, are you optimistic that they're going to come up with something that actually you and me can be on here in 18 months, congratulating them on their great ideas?
But just say, as you read that list of names, I'm not sitting here quaking with confidence for these people. I think that what we'll see is new calls for revenue generation and all these terms that we've heard this past session, where they're going to call for a increase in government revenue and a decrease in what people take home and feed their families with. And that's something that, any chance we as conservatives get to call our state reps and state senators and say, listen, I know about this task force. Even if you're not on it, voice our concerns that we don't want the government to grow. That's not why we put you people in power. Mm-hmm. We gave you this chance to govern our state. We gifted it to you. And now you're trying to soil it, and we won't stand for it. No, I don't have confidence that group of people is going to come up with a good idea at all. And it sounds like the Democrats are far more represented on that committee than they are in the House and the Senate. And how is that really reflecting the people's point of view of our state?
Yeah,
if they are. I'd have to crunch the numbers to back that up for sure, but it sure sounds like they're overly represented.
Yeah, for the proportions, in each chamber, to me it does seem a little Democrat heavy, and I don't understand that.
But
anyway,
apparently parties don't matter anymore because most of these people vote like Democrats anyway.
Exactly.
So it's craziness.
Yeah, and there's also this other thing that I can't get an answer on. They also announced that there's a joint committee of economic and tax policy that is now being formed. It's being chaired by Representative Lori Rushing, but Charlie Collins, Jeff Williams, Lane Jean, David Branscombe, and Joe Jett are on that committee, and that's a committee of just nothing but, sort of Republicans. Joe Jett, he kind of, I don't even know what this committee's going to do. It's just so frustrating, Richard. We have standing committees, and they make these special ones, and it's really frustrating.
Anytime there's a problem, this governor wants to slap a committee at it and ignore it for another 6, 8, 12 months until they can come up with a plan to raise taxes. That's really what these things are. They're just a game to make us think that they're really deliberating and they're really thinking about our best interest, when in reality, they're sitting there saying, all right, how can we generate enough revenue to fund every program and every special interest in the state that we can get our hands on, when that's not what we elected.
The Paul Harrell Program.
All right, welcome back. 870-275-9799. Ron in Clay County. What do you mean, Paul? CNN is the most trusted name in news. Huh. Oh, that's a good one. Mark writes in, enjoying the show on KBTM here in town. So that's Jonesboro. Mark writes, but City Council's about to meet, and I have to check on what sketchy-sounding land bank is about. That's Pillow in Craighead County writing that. Okay. Next up we have, I just want to get the word out to your listeners to support the Jake Files campaign in 2018. Oh, wait. Okay, never mind. Stephen in Sebastian County. Stephen in Sebastian County, hey, thank you so much for that text message. I appreciate that. He goes on to say, I'm a libertarian who loves listening to your recorded shows on podcasts, but we need to get you on the radio in Fort Smith. All right, Stephen, assuming that you have downloaded the podcast and are listening to hour number 2. I can tell you that we are trying. So wish us luck. But yeah, we've got some, let me just say, we've got some stuff cooking. Let me just put it that way. We got some stuff cooking. That's all I'll say. Stephen, we appreciate you listening to the podcast. All right. 870-275-9799. That's 870-275-9799. Courage under fire is a rare commodity. This is what Stewart in Craighead County writes. Sometimes one has to face constituents and tell the truth about deception and ask for them to support truth and right leadership, even though they may have to wait for a tax break. Receiving a tax break with added burden on others gives me personally a bad feeling. I would not do it. Now, I think that's referring to the tax, the veteran tax cut, the tax shifting, and things like that. That Representative Speaks was explaining. And I'm really glad she talked about that. I'm really glad she said, "Hey, look, this is the situation we were in." And I think it's that's just, we crave that. We just crave somebody being real with us. What we don't crave is when a Democrat, Vivian Flowers, from the House floor, asks Speaker of the House Jeremy Gillum, in the special session, "Hey, are we really about to change these rules just so we can impeach Judge Wendell Griffin? Isn't this what this is all about?" And then he denies that. He denies that's the whole reason you're having the conversation about changing the House rules, is so that you could impeach somebody. And then you just deny it. You know what I mean? It's just like, hey, just be real with us. We can connect the dots. And it's not the end of the world if you do change the rules because somebody violated the, ethics of the judicial branch. Anyway, just something I thought I would share. All right. So Mother's Day. Mother's Day has come and gone. I hope everyone had a fantastic Mother's Day. I just can't help but look at the news that surrounds Mother's Day. There's a lot of marketing that goes on around Mother's Day. A lot of people want you to buy flowers. A lot of people want you to buy chocolates. Sometimes I get the feeling that my mom gets sick of getting candles every year. But I just, I don't know. I just feel like candles are a good gift. Anyway, there's all these advertisements that go on. And there was one that has taken a lot of heat. Have you heard about this? Joe, have you heard about Stouffer's? Now, Stouffer's macaroni and cheese, I don't know if I've actually had Stouffer's macaroni and cheese in a box. I have had the Cracker Barrel version in a box, and I have had Shells in cheese, and I'm told that Shells in cheese is by far the best Velveeta-based box macaroni and cheese that you can have. So Stouffer's decided to put out a tweet. We have a graphic of this, by the way? I think, Joe. Can you check? Yeah, there it is. So here's this graphic, Stouffer's mac and cheese. They put out a tweet, and it says something very simple. It says, "Hey, give Mom the night off from cooking. She deserves it." Advertise. It's a pretty good ad. That's a pretty good ad. And wouldn't you know that the left has a meltdown on gender stereotypes. Yes. A cheese meltdown, Joe. Very good. You've got to put those puns on air for people to hear them. You can't just say it in there. You got to turn the microphone on and say a cheese meltdown. You just say it. That was a good one. It's a very good pun. So listen to what some of people said. Let's see. Kara Ellison says, "Hey, Stouffer's, nice sexist ad. So only moms are capable of cooking and dads can only make frozen meals? Is this 1950? I didn't think about that. It's kind of insulting to dads. I'm just a dude. I don't know how to cook. I need a hungry man dinner to cook. I just invented the wheel. I'm just a It's unbelievable. Let's see, who else? Let's see. Is this the same girl, Kara? Oh, no. This is Stouffer. Stouffer responds to this Kara girl. Of course not. We want to make sure they get the night off for Mother's Day. Stouffer's is probably like, oh, no. What have we done? What have we done? They've come for us. The fascist word police, the thought police, they've come for Stouffer's now.
This one ad is not worse than the Pepsi ad that came out a couple months ago, or about a month ago. That was it's very much a social justice warrior style ad, and a lot of people got up in arms about it.
So the racial justice ad, or it was were the cops and stuff, right? Yeah.
So like, there's that one. The funny thing was Pepsi. There's a lot of people who were like, man, there's no one who can make a bigger PR blunder than this. And literally a week later, United happened.
Yeah, Pepsi was excited about that one.
Yeah, they're like, all the heat off of our back for once.
Let's see here. Somebody else. Why doesn't your ad mention Sunday or Mother's Day then? People are upset. Who else do we have? Moms aren't the only ones who cook, Stouffer's. That's what Katie Gustafson says. I actually got a question. Honest question. Millennials out there. Guys, are there an abundance of millennial women that know how to cook? I'm not saying I'm curious. How is the culture going? Because there's obviously going to be some sort of trend, and normally, and I'll say this, women are the ones that cook. So millennials in today's world, people who are still in the dating world, who are still dating. I'm just curious. Do the women out there who are millennials, do they know their way around the kitchen?
I honestly don't know. I don't date much right now,
okay.
So I wouldn't know.
That's a free ad. But we're basically, like.
But from my experience in my past relationships, I think only one of my girlfriends actually knew how to cook. But she never cooked for me. We didn't date long enough for it. Actually,
and we say cook. We're saying like how to cook.
She was raised by her grandmother, so she knew her grandma taught her a lot.
See, how sexist is that, Joe? Just because she's raised by her grandmother, she's a good cook? My goodness,
she's the one who bragged to me about it all the time.
Oh, I know how to cook. That's great. All right. What else do we have? Moms aren't the only ones who are allowed to cook. They have that one. See, it's a good thing I don't run the Stouffer's Twitter account. Okay, this is from this website, Chicks on the Right. Angela, why isn't Dad cooking half the time already? People are kind of obsessed with equality in a way that I don't know. It's very strange to me.
Yeah, because they're not focused on the mom anymore. In this point, they're focused on the dad. Why isn't the dad doing this? Why isn't the dad doing that?
What's encouraging to me is how their worldview is just so wrong. And guess what? A majority of women in this country who are alive today do a majority of the cooking. Tough. I can say that. I mean, that's a complete fact.
Mom, if you're listening, I'm glad Bill does the cooking. But he's a better cook.
But it's the truth. I mean, it just is what it is. Why are people so afraid of stereotypes that get reinforced every single day? Anybody? Why are people so afraid of stereotypes that are out there? They get reinforced every day. Yeah. Are there ones that we would rather be like, I wish that stereotype, I wish this wasn't this. But the truth is, that stereotype exists because it's not like somebody's making up. Let me create the existence of this type of person and let me define. That's not what's happening. People are going around making basic observations. Now, if you use those observations and discriminate against somebody, I think that's wrong. Judge somebody, treat them like they're less of a human because of some negative characteristics that are associated with this stereotype or that stereotype. Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can agree that, and we can all say, hey, let's try not to judge people. We can all shoot for that, because that's just trying to do the right thing and treat somebody else the way you would want to be treated, you know? I mean, you know, I'm I don't know, what's a white person? See, I don't even know what's a white person stereotype.
White men can't jump.
A white man can't jump. Yeah, all right. And that really doesn't bother me. I mean, if somebody's like, yeah, I'm going to assume that you can't jump or play basketball well.
I would promptly look at you and go, yes, I cannot jump very high.
Now, I wouldn't be really offended by that, but, you know, whatever. I actually could jump fairly well and rebound fairly well when I did play. But whatever. You know, that's fine. I don't care. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I heard some comedian some talking about some white guy stereotype about how, like, I can't remember what it is. What it was about how white people like to watch a lot of documentaries on Netflix. Yes, I like to watch documentaries.
Not a big fan of documentaries right now.
I didn't realize that was a racial thing, but that doesn't, you know, but I like to watch documentaries. I can't, you know, I want to watch this new one that's on Netflix called Get Me Roger Stone. Roger Stone is the guy that supported Donald Trump. You know what I mean? And like, is one of Donald Trump's, I don't know, not like a direct advisor, but, you know, maintains I want to watch that documentary on Netflix, Get Me Roger Stone. I hear it's going to be fascinating.
Paul, don't be so white.
Princess 37 writes, fire whoever wrote this ad. They deserve it, Stofers. Let's see. Priya Welia just writes, Stofers sexist. And then one reasonable person named Paul Weidenhaft.
Oh, what a name, Paul. Such a good name. Such a good reasonable name.
Sorry, Paula. Not. I'm sorry. I'm just used to reading my name and not do the A on it. Paula Weidenhaft. I think this is a great ad. Not sexist at all. Keep up the good work, Stofers. It's pretty good. Anyway, so there you go, folks. That's what our society has sung to. This ad apparently is so offensive. Macaroni and cheese looks delicious. Give mom the night off for cooking. She deserves it. It's Mother's Day.
And Stofers, why does it have to be mac and cheese? Why can't it be lasagna?
It's discriminatory against
Italian food.
It's anti-Italy all the way. We got to take a break, folks. 870-275-9799. Back in a moment.
This is Common Sense and Liberty. I'm Donnie Copeland. The Republican Party of Arkansas has something called a platform, and it's basically what they believe. Things like lower taxes, right to own and bear arms, encouraging individual responsibility and initiative. Yet in this legislative session, we see Republicans fighting against the right to own and bear arms by amending over and over the campus carry bill. We see instead of lowering taxes and fees being raised 8 different times. We see the attack against individual responsibility and initiative by continuing to embrace Obamacare Medicaid expansion called Arkansas Works. So what we need is not conservatives or not Republicans, because those names don't seem to mean anything anymore. We need platform Republicans. This is Donnie Copeland for Common Sense and Liberty.
Do you need to advertise your business product or service, but not sure what the best choice is? Folks, allow me to introduce you to Talk Radio. You're listening to it right now. Talk radio is one of the most unique mediums in all of advertising because it actually works. It gets the information you want to the people you want to get it to. And by the way, those people are educated, well-informed decision makers of their household, and most of them have disposable income. If this is a target audience for your business, then you have to consider advertising on my show, The Paul Harrell Program. We have options for most any budget and can provide you with exciting opportunities to grow your business. We can put your message across the state, or we can help you locally. Call 870-275-9733 if you have any questions. That's 870-275-9755, or visit my website, paulharrell.com, and click on Advertise.
Welcome to the Arkansas Obamacare Hotline. We would be more than happy to help you enroll in Arkansas Obamacare today. We just need a little information about you. Let's get started. If you're disabled, pregnant, or looking for medical care for your child, the program is currently full, and there's no doctors to see you. Please hang up now. If you're an able-bodied adult, please press 1. If you're currently employed, we're sorry, but you most likely do not qualify for the program. Please quit your job and call back later. If you don't work and instead play video games all day with your cats in your grandmother's basement, please press 1. If you've never lived in Arkansas, press 1. If you currently live in another state, press 1. If you recently purchased a home in New Jersey for $750,000, please press 1. If your current identity has previously been used by another person, was created before your actual date of birth, or doesn't really exist, please press 1. Congratulations! It sounds like you're the perfect candidate to receive Arkansas Obamacare. Please stay on the line, and a hardworking DHS employee will be with you as soon as possible. While you're waiting, feel free to relax as your ambitions to gainful employment fade away. PHP Parody.
I was talking to one of the co-owners of, one second. I was talking to one of the co-owners of iTex this morning, and I heard him say that this ransomware global attack that we have seen, this terrorist attack, is just the tip of the iceberg, that there is more coming, and there are articles out there that certainly back that up. And I just want to tell you, I mean, look, you've heard me talk about iTex for the last couple of months, and specifically you've heard me talk about ransomware. I just can't encourage you enough to be proactive and to go and to reach out to them just for a free consultation. If you're a business owner and you want to protect your business, you want to protect your bottom line, please call my friends at iTex. They are the techs to trust. They can service your needs, become your managed service provider, and they can do it all with an affordable and predictable budget. Please call them today, 870-336-9778. That's 870-336-9778. If you're worried about the ransomware and, you know, where they're targeting and things like that, just give them a call. They're knowledgeable. They'll know what to do to help best serve your business. You can find out more at itexusa.com. That's itexusa.com. Your text messages, we've been getting some of them. Let me read some of them as we end the program here today. Hang on a second. I had one. We read that one already. Hang on one second. Let's see. Miles, Craighead County, writes, Paul, why don't you run for a position in the Marble Palace next election? I am sure all your listeners would support you. Miles. Miles, that's the last thing that I ever want to do in my life. Literally the last thing I ever want to do. Number one. Number two, if that were to happen, I don't know how I would be able to do a radio show. So that's a whole thing. What else do we have here? Nick writes in Greene County, if a guy finds a lady that cooks, he has found a rare gem nowadays. I'm sure they are out there, but they are far and few between. Nick in Greene County, thanks for your text message. Somebody writes in, just can't dance. Oh, is that another white person stereotype? Can't dance. We don't. The other, to see how easy this is. If we were talking about, and I guess if you were to start listening to black stereotypes, okay, you couldn't do that, right? Because that's completely insensitive. And I guess there are now. I guess it would be considered racist, but I guess there are African Americans that could list them. Right? Is that a thing that could happen? Yeah, I mean, what about a stereotype? What if you said that all African Americans celebrate Martin Luther King Day? You could say that, and people are like, that's a stereotype, but for some reason people wouldn't find that as offensive, because I guarantee you could find some African Americans that maybe don't really celebrate Martin Luther King Day. Is it possible? I think it's possible. That's a stereotype that we're fine with. We're fine appropriating that stereotype of people that we're saying that all African Americans celebrate Martin Luther King Day. That's just a thing. But in 20, 25 years, who knows what the new standards that we consider that are going to become offensive to the next generation. That's why this is all so stupid. That's why this politically correct culture is so fascist, and it's so stupid, because we'll evolve, and what we find offensive 20, 25, 30 years from now may not be anything close to what we find offensive now. We got another one, Joe, Fulton County. Paul, Stouffer's is the only frozen food worth eating. They are a Swiss company and are ahead of the rest. No preservatives, GMO, monosodium, high fructose corn syrup, etc. This dad cooks and eats Stouffer's only. Well, Joe, from Fulton County, I appreciate that. I had no idea. I'm going to give Stouffer's a try. I got a text message from our good friend Kenny Wallace. And, okay. So down in Little Rock, this is kind of a follow-up. He sent me a few photos. He's down there filming this city council meeting or city hall. I believe this has to do with the homeless. You know how Little Rock wants to make it illegal to feed the homeless? Or I'm sorry, they want to regulate. I think that's what he's talking about here. So anyway, I'm looking forward to hearing that audio if we have anything of note. I'd love to hear the arguments from the city. We just can't have you feeding the homeless so much. We just can't have you being so charitable so much. I'm really looking forward to that, just because I want to bring it to you. 870-275-9799. That is the telephone number. I want to remind you, you can call us or text us at any time, because the Liberty Machine never sleeps, but you can also leave us a voice message. I got a long voice message today from a friend who had just found this program. I'm sorry, and he's now a friend, but he's a guy who just found our program and wants to talk to me about a ton of stuff. And I haven't called him back yet, so if you're listening, I will call you back, sir. I got that voice message, and I really appreciate you taking the time to contact me. So feel free to do that, 870-275-9799. We do try to respond to as many messages as we can. And our Liberty Machine T-shirts, we've already mentioned them to you once today. We've given one away, but our Liberty Machine T-shirts, if you want them, are up at paulharrell.com. That's Paul, HARRELL.com, as well as free broadcasts. You can go back and listen to as many shows as you want. We have the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud. Feel free. Folks, we'll be back here tomorrow with a brand new 2 hours of the best conservative talk radio you can find in the state of Arkansas, focused on Arkansas, on the issues that affect you. Does it grow government? Does it increase dependency on government? Does it spend money we don't have? That's part of the conduitforaction.org economic freedom filter, and we try to analyze events like that as well. We're gonna end the show. We'll see you tomorrow. Thank you for listening. Arkansas, be safe.